put on the spot.
Well, I kind of feel like I've been set up. First of all, we have this great song, and who tops that? And then we have that. But I do have a correction, an editorial correction. God's at the helm. The divine light is at the helm. The Creator is at the helm. Source is at the helm. We're just rowing along with the team, doing our best. But before I speak, I always like to say a prayer, so do you mind? Divine light, Creator of all it is, please guide my words. Please give me wisdom. Let me share what serves the highest and greatest good of each individual here. Please guide me through this. Not my will, but thy will be done. Amen. Well, most of you know by now how much I really like standing at this podium. It's the most intimidating place that is much more user-friendly. I always feel like if I'm over here, I've got to have something really profound to say, and not usually the case for me. But I want to talk about your relationship with the divine. Now, I had real trouble titling this talk because some of you, when I first came to the church, there was a lot of talk about the word God. There was a lot of fracas about Father. There was a lot of fracas about Creator, Source, Father, Mother, God, the great kahuna. You know, and I don't want to get into that kind of dialogue. I want to talk about the relationship that we have individually with Spirit. And so through this, you're going to hear me say divine light. You're going to hear me say Creator. I'll probably use all of the words. But you know what I'm talking about, the source. And I'm trying to be respectful of everybody. But I also want to remind you, each one of you has been on a spiritual journey for a long time. Don't give your power away. Your relationship with the divine is your relationship with the divine. It's not mine, it's not anybody else's. It's yours. And it evolves over the time that you grow and you unfold spiritually. Now, sometimes somebody has something to say that says, yeah, I agree with that, or I'm open to that, or that's more than I've thought of it before, or it enriches you in some way. But I'm not here to tell you what to believe. What's in here will tell you what to believe. Your heart will guide you. I'm just going to give you sort of my random thoughts on these things. So I got here and I was going to title this. And it was creating a relationship with God. Then it was intimacy with the divine light. Then it was creating intimacy with Source. It was being and then I gave up. And I changed the title on the bulletin about 17 times. So I'm off to a real good start here, just so you know. But ultimately, it is the Creator of all that is that we're talking about. And Jesus talked about God as the Father, the Creator, the Source. And I don't have a problem with that, per se. I just know that, you know, through the female movement, we have to recognize that he didn't, you know, we see a dynamic, and we're told that the life on this earth, or this plane, reflects spirit. And so our understanding of our relationship with parents and and it goes on. So what do we really know about the creative force? What we've been told through many guided masters, it's been called the great I am, the I am presence. When asked, who are you? It says, I am. Okay, I accept that, I am, but that's a pretty broad-based thing. I am that I am. So when I was in confirmation, Pastor Nestigan decided to talk about the I am that I am, because one of the boys asked, what does it mean? And he goes, oh, well, I exist, therefore I am. And I thought about that, and I thought, it really can't be. That doesn't work for me. So, of course, I went home, and I had to talk to my parents about this. And my dad is sitting there, and he said, well, you can take it a couple of ways. He said, how about if you look at it this way? I am that, I am. I am that, I am. I am that, I am. And I thought, I like that much better. That works better for me. And then I come to this church, and now it's not that I haven't read these kinds of principles before, but I thought, I am in everyone and in everything. And I thought, now that works for me. Because I grew up with everything, I grew up in a shelter belt on a farm with the big open plain, and we had the best sunsets in the whole world. Now, some of you may argue with that, but North Dakota's wide open and it's flat, and you see the sunsets forever, and they are beautiful. And my mother every night would faithfully sit in the window and watch the sunset, because the sunset normally told us what was going to happen the next day. If the sun set clear, good day in the fields. If it didn't set clear, there was always something else coming. And there's some wisdom, red skies in the morning, sailors take warning, red skies at night, sailors delight. So my mother just was always a fierce one. But sometimes the skies were painted in ways, there were purples and blues and pinks and lavenders. And it was just magnificent. And she'd go, oh, God, how magnificent. And I always thought it was a compliment. It wasn't just, it was sort of like she was saying, thank you, this is magnificent. And you have to remember I was very little, and I always thought that this was a running dialogue. Or the trees, there's nothing like in the morning when the dew just leaves and the trees are just whispering in the wind, and it's not blowing, but they're just, and the leaves hit each other, and they make sounds. They're like they're singing. And, she'd go, oh, God, this is a magnificent day. So I always just assumed my mom was talking to God. And it just seemed like a natural dialogue. And so I always thought there was this one-on-one relationship going on. I never learned any different. And then I get along in school, and they're talking about the I am, the Alpha and the Omega. I'm the beginning and I'm the end. And then I hear, I am your first breath when you are born. I am with you always. I am love. Now, I thought God was a loving being. And then I got a little older, and I started going to other churches. And a friend of mine said, come to my church. So it used to be the potluck, the girls in the potluck. We would visit the Congregational church, and we go to the Methodist church, and we go to the Baptist church. Whatever was in our group, they hosted one Sunday in their church. And I was introduced to things like judgment. And I thought, well, or God will punish. Or, you know, if you're not good, you have all these sins. Well, that wasn't the God I knew. The God I knew made beautiful sunsets and had symphonies in the trees, and the crops came in, and we said thank you. And we were in a spiritual household. It was just, I just thought the God word was the big kahuna, and they were given things. So again, I go home and I'm talking about this. My dad said, love's not an emotion, sweetheart. It's an energy. It's an energy, and I'm thinking romantic love. And he said it's an energy between people. It's what ties you. It's what makes you one. And he said, but it is a building block and an energy with everything else. And that's what creation is. Everything's a creative force of energy in different densities. Now I'm young, so I had my own interpretation of that. But I got that it was a fundamental building block. We were also told that our every act and thought is known. Therefore, Spirit is already intimate with us. But true intimacy in a relationship must be reciprocal. So I'm tootling along through puberty thinking, okay, that's how you do this. You have to have an interaction with God. Well, my mom's talking to God all the time. So this was before I got the lessons in prayer. Other than, you know, when I'm little, it's, you know, you're on your knees praying and stuff. And so I'm going along, hey, God, it's me. Please help me pass my driver's test. Hey, God, it's me. I'm late. My dad's going to be upset with me. I broke curfew. Mom's going to be waiting up, and then it's going to be bad. You know, that kind of stuff. And yes, I did break curfew on occasion. Well, you know, I just assumed that they were right. The relationship between us and the divine was very comparable to our parent-child relationship. Now, I know not everybody had peachy relationships with their parents. I was pretty blessed because I've met a lot of people in church and beyond whose lives weren't as, you know, mine had a few challenges, I'm not saying. And I got taken to the woodshed and all the stuff that goes along with that. But the point is that all in all, I had that loving God. But what I also learned about intimacy is into me you see. And I thought, God already is inside and sees what goes on with us. God knows us and on a much, our every thought. So he doesn't need to build the relationship with us. But we need to build the relationship with the divine. So I thought to myself, how do we do that? See, I'm really nervous here.
You're doing great.
I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying. It's much more fun over there. But intimacy is something very special. It's a gift we give ourselves. And once I became a parent, got a much deeper understanding of that, because you know your children, you love them unconditionally. They don't really know you till they become adults, and sometimes they don't even know you then. Sometimes they have to become parents before they can really understand who you are and what's going on with you. But the point is, relationships are reciprocal. And you can love somebody and not necessarily be intimate with them. But building a relationship with somebody is a communion that happens between the two of you. It's no different with spirit, regardless of what you call spirit, the big kahuna. It has to be reciprocal. It has to be something where you are surrendering your information. But as much as spirit wants to know you and is part of you, you need to want to know them. And when you build intimacy with somebody else, you realize they have things they're not so proud of. They have experienced things you don't realize that they've experienced. They know the dark sides of things that they hope you will never see. They know joys that you hope someday you will see. Sometimes they've known war and challenges, and they don't want that for you. They want you to know happiness and safety. I don't think the divine is any different, because the divine is in all things, in all places, knows all things. If that's the case and resides within the good, the bad, and the ugly, Spirit knows all of that. Do you think Spirit wants us to experience all of that? Because as a parent, there's a few things I've had experiences in my life I don't want my children to have. Now, they may have to have them, but I don't want them to have them. I know it may be necessary for or a natural part of life, but I don't want them to have broken arms. I don't want them to have accidents. I don't want them to be embarrassed. I don't want their feelings hurt, but I know it's necessary. I think Spirit's the same. But I think Spirit wants a relationship with us. And I think the only way that we can have intimacy with God is when we are in good fellowship with Him. We have to communicate. You know, if you're not talking to your parents, they're not going to get to know you. You're going to grow and change along the way. Well, I think Spirit grows and changes. With every individual experience here, knowing each and being part of each and every one of you, Spirit is constantly evolving, constantly experiencing new and different things from different perspectives. Spirit is growing like we're growing by our experiences. So we need to work hard to have a relationship, and you have to communicate. If Spirit meets you, my relationship with each of my children is uniquely different because they're different. You don't think that Spirit's relationship with you isn't uniquely different? Because I believe that it is. I don't think this is a generic energy, a love source. I think it is there for you just where you stand at any given moment. Intimacy with God is a secure and loving relationship, because I don't know about you, but the God I know is loving, is kind, provides, sometimes sets some boundaries that are a little tough, sometimes brings some experiences into our lives that we wish we didn't have, but Spirit is still there for each and every one of you. And I have never reached out in prayer and not been answered. I haven't always liked the answer. Sometimes it isn't exactly what I had in mind, but with time I realized it's exactly what I needed. In this relationship, we grow in as we trust. So the more you trust, and the trust is reciprocal, the deeper the relationship gets, because trust is an important part of intimacy. And it's a resting place, it's safe. Because when you truly feel loved, you feel safe. But there's a constancy about that divine presence that's there for you no matter what you do. No matter what you do. And I don't think punishment's a big thing. I think we're worse on ourselves once we realize all that we do. So how do we build this relationship with the divine? Well, I started out by talking to God all the time, probably because I was in the farm and there were no other kids and there was nobody else to talk to. And I think my parents got tired of this all the time. And so, I was out there, okay, God, what are we going to do today? I've got this playhouse and I need this. How do I make that? What do I do with that? How can I make this? And all of a sudden a box will turn up, or some log that's really interesting, and suddenly the whole world becomes creative possibility for what I needed. So I just thought it was sort of call and on demand, and I'd get a hot idea and things would happen. So I had this running talk. Well, as I got older, and my prayers really became more serious because my mother got sick. And my prayers were it occurred to me, I could end up without a mother. And although we didn't always have the easiest relationship, an idea of having a home without my mother did not feel very good. And I knew the impact it would have on my father, my brother. And it was like I started having some real serious talks with God. And I said, how can we make this better? What can we do? And I learned that education became important because the more my mother understood that we were able to take care of ourselves, the more relieved she was. But I also learned that you have to listen to God. So prayers are talking to God, and meditation is listening to God. So that's a very important thing. Now, I know y'all have heard all of this before, and it's pretty redundant. But we don't always practice what we know. And I think when you listen to prayers, or meditation and meditation, or you see pictures, you don't always understand what you're seeing. Or you don't understand, or maybe you do, and I'm just not there yet. That's possible. But sometimes I get things in meditation, I'm going on, what is that about? And then down the line, something comes, I ask for clarity, clarity comes. So I started realizing that if I didn't understand, I could ask. And if I thought I was getting the wrong answers, I could ask for validation. I'd say, if this is legitimately happening for me, will you show me? And sometimes I needed to say, show me in XYZ manner, and I would get answers. And I thought, well, we're starting to speak the same language here. And I think individuals, each of you, create your own language with the divine. For me, certain birds mean things, roses mean things, different colored roses mean things. I see certain bees. Bees make a big difference for me, different kinds of bees. I have a different language. I think you all have your own language. You just have to learn to articulate it. So you have to be aware of your environment because it is a living, breathing environment that talks to you. It's, sometimes you can look at something, you can look at a piano, and it can feel one way, and another time it can say, play me. Or it'll say, not today. You get a feeling about things and you don't always understand them, but if you learn to be sensitive to them, it builds your awareness with the intangible or what feels intangible. I will also say gratitude is huge. You want a reciprocal relationship with the divine? You need to recognize when you've been given a gift and be grateful. Oh God, what a beautiful sunset. Oh God, the trees are beautiful. Oh, thank you that we didn't get that tree didn't fall on our house in that storm last night. Look at the windmill. It's all gone. Thank God it didn't fly into the house. You know, there's always something to be thankful for in what you are approaching. You also have to have appreciation. You can be grateful, but you also have to be appreciative. When your garden looks good, it looks good. And you know that whatever you're being given is going to help you along the way. When there's only one lane open on that big bridge that you don't like very much going across, like the one into Charleston, bad bridge for me. If it was going to be open, I wanted that center lane open because I didn't want to be on either side of that. And that's something to be thankful for. Those things are being appreciative. I think there can be verbal appreciation. There can be heartfelt appreciation. But there can also be physical appreciation. If you don't think laughing, dancing, playing, giving somebody a hug is an appreciation of love and divine, and if you see the divine in everything around you, and you show appreciation for it, you are building your relationship with God. The divine in me sees the divine in you. The hurt in me sees the hurt in you. The song in me sees the song in you. You are seeing in others the divine. It's reciprocal. Then there's that time of reflection and solitude. I'm what they call an ambivert. I was told that anyway. I have times where I'm really extroverted, and then I have times when I'm super introverted. And when I'm very introverted, I have to have time to reflect. Those are times where you can think back over what's happened, what you've interacted with, and how it's blessed you, and how it touches God. Acts of kindness are acts of the divine in action. Unconditional acceptance. Doesn't mean you have to like something, but accepting it sometimes is a real challenge. But don't you think the divine accepts us unconditionally? Therefore, I think if we learn to accept other people unconditionally, we learn a little bit about the challenges, and we have that reciprocity. There's sacrificial love. There are sometimes you love and it's going to cost you dearly. Love isn't cheap. And it can cost you. But you still love. You don't think we don't take a toll on the divine? I think there's times that it's like, oh no, that one again. But there's a divine connection. This is how you build that connection. Compassionate action. That's a healing action. That's the things where you reach out and heal as the divine heals. And sometimes the most compassionate thing that happens with the divine is you get to leave your body, because sometimes the body just doesn't function. The key here is to find God in all things, all situations, and all places. For all is creations and expressions of God. Everything, even the difficult things, are the challenges that help us grow so we can overcome. So I've decided that to serve others in love as an expression of faith and a means to strengthen your relationship with God. Spiritual intimacy is a deep, personal relationship with God. It's characterized by a profound connection and communication with the divine. It involves an ongoing, dynamic interaction with God. day to day, every time, every place. And spiritual intimacy can be seen as going beyond the physical and emotional connection. It can become its own creative healing force. Look at our healers. Look at our people who minister to people through the heart. Realize that your every act is part of your intimacy with the divine. So if you want to understand what goes on with the divine and have that relationship, connect in that loving vibration for all things. So that's as disjointed as I am today. Thank you.